welcome to the Beyond Cinema studio, Mr. Cary Fukunaga. Firstly, congratulations on all the successes that you've had kind of over the last few years especially.
Thank you.
There's a lot of firsts being made with this film, Beast with No Name, shot in Ghana. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like what?
It was Beast of No Nation. Sorry,
Beast of No Nation.
I didn't want to let that
Yeah.
go by. It was totally fine. It's
Yeah.
Sin Nombre, Beast of No Nation.
Yeah.
I really got to think of titles that actually have names. But we shot in Ghana, and that was actually a hard-fought lobbying movement, not only with the producers, but I think with Film Finance, who was our bond company, because there really wasn't any precedent for shooting there, and to shoot a film in a place where, films don't typically shoot seems like it'd be an easy sort of, excursion process. But, what you need in terms of infrastructure is transportation, hotels, restaurants, a whole extensive network of hospitality that typically doesn't exist in countries that are like have more of an industry of resource extraction. Because those companies sort of house and take care of their own people. So we ended up shooting in a place where it was like a one-horse town. There was one hotel, one restaurant, and transpo was a complete work in progress. And you would think those are just one small part of how a movie is made, but actually that logistical aspect is how everything is made. And if you don't have strong logistical support, everything falls apart. Your equipment doesn't arrive, your crew doesn't arrive, the actors don't arrive, no one knows where they're going. It was a pretty chaotic process.
Yeah.
Like making the movie there, and sort of like on the ground film school for people who had never really worked on a film before. Teaching every department had their local crew, and sort of like teaching the ways of how we make movies in the West. And it was trailblazing. Yeah.
Do you think that it'll have a lasting impact on that area? Do you think some of those people will be inspired to continue down that path?
Absolutely. I mean, already since we have left, and people who are part of the crew have started casting agencies, because there's already like a commercial and music video sort of production side to Ghana. I wouldn't say that it's like completely absent of any film production, but in terms of the production value that like a narrative film brings in to the skill set of the crews there, it's definitely up to the game. And I mean, our AD department alone, we used to lock down streets that you can see down a street for a mile. And again, you don't think about it when you're watching the movie, how far you can see in the background. But what that means is that our entire AD department has to lock down and make sure like school kids and people aren't just like crossing by in the background because they're getting on with their everyday life. And in LA and New York, people are used to having to stop because a film is shooting, and even in New York, people don't care and still walk through anyway. It's very much like that in Ghana. Like we're trying hard to like plug holes in like this giant leaking dam, which is the background.
Yeah, and then also it being Netflix's first official original feature.
Yeah.
A lot of creatives talk about the freedom that the
Mm-hmm.
Netflix infrastructure has been giving them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that was that true for you, or because this was kind of a first for them, was there kind of an added kind of management level that you had to deal with as well?
No, well, in our case, it's an acquisition. So when we were making it and posting it, Netflix really wasn't a factor. We were making it to eventually sell the film to a distributor, and sort of in the traditional way. So when Netflix came on board, what it did is essentially free us of the stress of box office returns, because the Netflix model isn't dependent upon that. They can put that in the cinemas and they won't pull it out a week later if only like 5 people are showing up in the cinema. But hopefully more than 5 people will show up in the cinema.
Does that change your mindset then in terms of finishing the creative process? Do you feel like you don't have to achieve a certain demographic, or there's something that you would maybe otherwise have targeted?
I think the only thing that would have changed is probably the running time. I think if we'd gone for a traditional platform release, the exhibitor and the distribution company would have probably made me cut down the film. And that's the one thing Netflix let me keep, was like, And people might criticize the runtime, but I still wouldn't cut a frame.
There's an element to your work that is true of a few, like literally, like definitively the auteurs,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're able to get behind the camera, shoot what you need to shoot. Kind of got room
I
service.
ordered pizza.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone else want pizza?
For you, like that language, both going from the writing application to knowing that you're going to direct your own thing, knowing
Yeah.
that you've got the capacity to go behind the camera and frame and make these beautiful images happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that you're, like, as you kind of move through the system, something that you're trying to keep a hold of, or is there a desire for you to say, well, I'd rather rely on someone else for this element now?
Right. I'm hesitant of becoming a one-man band. They're when you're growing up and aspiring to be a filmmaker, like you read, Rodriguez's book about how you make a movie, and there's all these people, other sort of models to try and model yourself after. But as we know people at NYU makes you do everything, every role as you're shooting. You're doing boom op for your friend's movie. You're producing your friend's movies. You're constantly rotating. So the skill set's there, but I don't necessarily want to do every single department. And even on Beast of No Nation, I was a cinematographer, but I wasn't planning on being the camera operator. That only happened because our camera operator hurt himself, and to get somebody out there not only takes time in terms of finding the right person to replace them with, but there's vaccines you have to get. Those have to wait for a certain amount of weeks before you're okay to travel, just because of the diseases that exist in West Africa. So we didn't get a camera operator in until well into the second half of our shooting schedule. So that was probably more than I wanted to take on, but it was necessary in order to get the film done. So on some level, you're just, to get through your day, those skill sets are essential to know what's the least amount you need to keep moving. And by the time we were like into the last quarter of our shooting, I knew how long it would take the cars and trucks and everyone to get out and arrive and get the equipment going. So then I would take a smaller package with me to sort of like, basically as a strike team, we'd arrive on the next location and just start shooting. And what that did is it meant everyone else had to suddenly rush to get ready to go. Because I knew we needed our boom op and recorder, just needed me and the camera, and I'd go handheld with an Apple box or a sandbag or whatever, and I needed my actor. And we're gonna start shooting whether anyone's ready or not. And that's what we needed to do to get through it. But had I not known everything what you really need to make something, then maybe that would have slowed me down.
Yeah. Working with some of the actors, obviously you've got plenty of experience coming into it.
Uh-huh.
Idris Elba on this, and obviously McConaughey and Woody on True Detective, and
Yeah.
On this film you got a different element. Again, like there's local people hanging around. You've got this kid Abraham Attar, who's kind of a new phenomenon. That's coming out of this film. Like, what, in terms of your relationship with him as this young kid, portraying something that's so visceral and so strong, like what did you need from him? How did you establish that relationship with him? And kind of on the end side of that, what do you see on screen now that still surprises you about him?
Every actor I work with, it's a different dynamic, because everyone's just a different personality and need different things in terms of to get to the place they can deliver their performance. And sometimes it's a learning process to figure out how each person works. And some of the bigger actors I worked with from Fassbender to Mia Wasikowska, and like you said, Woody and Matthew, and now Idris, they're all different. They really are. And when you're dealing with kid actors and non-actors, people who hadn't really had any experience before, it's also different, and the information you give them or the way you sort of motivate them is completely different. So it's a kind of a psychological, Rubik's Cube, figuring out how you talk to one person one way and the person another way, and keep everyone feeling safe and sort of informed as you move towards getting the scene put together. And for the kids, like Abraham, it was very basic. We did a lot of acting exercises, kind of teaching people about how to express themselves on camera in a way they wouldn't necessarily express themselves in everyday life. Just that little bit more than reality, so that it translates to the camera. And they knew the arc of the story, and Abraham knew very well, for example, there's a tough scene with him and Idris towards the middle of the film. And Abraham knew what that scene was about and what it meant, and he also knew that we weren't actually going to do it in real life. But even then, preparing for that scene, he couldn't even look at Idris. Like, he just avoided him that day. And Idris was pretty aware of that as well, which I think affected him. You know, having to play that scene was one of the more difficult scenes for him.
Very cool. Final question for you.
Yeah.
Why Parliament of Owls?
For a company name. Parliament of Owls. I kind of like the idea of the collective, you know, like when we were in film school, there was like the Swedish collective Truck that was like the commercial collective, and I just like the idea of like assembling all my friends one day and helping them all make movies and help, you know, having that sort of that resource not only for storytelling but also just to be prolific, you know, with our stories. I wanted something that was more group oriented. So, and I've always liked owls my whole life. I think there's been an owl in almost all my films. And so a group of owls is called the Parliament of Owls, just like a group of crows. It's a murder of crows, Congress of ravens. And I just thought Parliament of Owls was a great name. Not a great acronym, though, for websites. It's poo.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that's okay.
I think one of the Monty Python guys, whether it's Eric Idle, I think it might have been Eric Idle or Michael Palin, they had their production company was called Poo Poo Productions.
Oh, really?
And the whole thing was that they just thought that would be funny when sending things off to lawyers who are filling in precedent documents, that the only thing that they have to keep filling in that document was poo poo, poo poo, poo poo, all the way through.
No, yeah, that's perfect, man.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for spending a few minutes with us, man.
Yeah, no problem,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah.